Peace, everyone. Greetings and welcome to another Sovereign Eats podcast. Welcome to the second episode of this season. This evening, we are delving into a little bit more around the definitions of sorts, right? In our last episode, I shared time with my co-host, Sister Jazira, and we explored the body, spirit, and soul. And though we did not delve too deeply into, what those components of who we are actually mean, we did take a look at, honoring spirit, honoring the body, and honoring the soul for, for its function and purpose in our journey. And so we did that too because a lot of what we will be unearthing and exploring during this season spans beyond just food, right? And health. We'll be delving into spirituality. We'll be delving into different forms of healing and different healing modalities. We'll be bringing you the scoop on things. We'll be spilling the tea on things. So definition is really important and really crucial. It sets the standard and lays the foundation. And so part of what I will be doing this evening, though I'm writing alone, I will be talking about veganism versus plant-based diets. And the reason I'll be doing that is to, again, lay another layer of foundation so that we can get some of the major definitions and major terms out of the way so that when we begin to really dive in deep, you guys will understand and follow some of the conversations that we're having, and you'll have your own perspectives as well too, which we want you to share with us. We want you to throw your comments into the comment section or share some of your ideas with us, because we really want to hear from you, one, and two, we also know you have a voice. All right, so this evening it's purely from the perspective of delving into the definition of things so that way we have clarity. And, I wanted to share when I began my vegan journey or my plant-based journey, because now I identify as plant-based, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But when I started my journey, I started as vegan. And so, when I refer to myself back then, you'll probably hear me say, when I was vegan. All right, because back then I was 14 and had just discovered food and nutrition. And food and nutrition was one of my favorite classes because it gave you the opportunity, that back then I attended an all-girls Catholic school, and my teacher then was Miss Wegman. And so Miss Wegman knew everything there was to know about baking and food prep and the kitchen and hors d'oeuvres, you name it, she knew it. But what I found was the most edifying experiences actually was the study and learning about the different ingredients, and also learning about the different forms of diet and the different nutrients that we can find and assess scientifically, right, through chemistry, because I was studying chemistry then too. So there was a marrying of biology and chemistry and food and nutrition that was actually happening in my mind at that time. And I just had an appreciation for food beyond the eating of it, right? And beyond the baking of it or the making of it and the decoration, the science and so on really was intriguing to me. But anyway, I digress. I discovered during my first, I think it may have been like my first month of studies in food and nutrition, I discovered that there were several different types of diets that were very different from the diet that I was born and reared to enjoy. You know, my father would actually kill a chicken every, Sunday or every other Sunday. And, like it would be defeathered and cooked. And that would be, that food fowl would last us for a week. So we'll be eating, stewed chicken with maybe rice and other things for a long time. All right. But I shifted, and I shifted because I discovered the beauty of different diets. When I discovered that veganism was an actual option, and also learned that, wait, there's lacto-ovo vegetarian and pescatarian. I was young, I was 14. But I was mind blown at that point. And I was also dealing with very painful periods at that time. And I actually have one of my episodes from our last season that delves a little bit deeper into some of my pain story. All right, from being a teenager and dealing with, cramping and things like that. But at that time, anything I thought would work. So I wanted to try just about anything. And so changing up my diet became something that I tried. And I tried it too because I was reading a couple of different books, and also, like thinking about the science of how, certain things affected my menstrual cycle and so on, and looking at the different nutrients I needed to kind of boost myself and improve my and fortify myself and my blood. I decided to go for a change, and that's what led me to eliminating meats and dairy out of my diet. All right, I will say it was not a battle at all, with the exception of cheese. I think a lot of people have the same battle even now. And so I'm happy to kind of explain and share on another episode how I got over, the battle of cheese. And some of it has to do with a 7-day Adventist recipe that I discovered just by happenstance. And it's kind of crazy and whack how it happened too, but that's another story as well, that I'll share another time. And I also have a turkey story as well too, but that story is also for another time, because there was a moment where I had a relapse, and that relapse was around this time actually. And it was not hard for me. I was just like, you know what? I haven't had this in a long time. I would just have peace. I do not care. And that was it. I think it may have been when I was 15. And then after that, it tasted so bad. I never went back. But yes, my first experience with being a vegan really focused on the diet of things and the health benefits of it, as I saw, and versus the ethics. All right. So when we say vegan, or we use the term vegan, we must attach the word ethics to it immediately, because veganism was, created in 1944 by Donald Watson. Donald Watson, of course, was an Englishman, an English animal rights advocate, to be precise. And he too was the founder of the Vegan Society, right? So right there, we see that veganism is a vegan describes a person who avoids using animals for ethical reasons and using animals for food and clothing sources, right? Veganism expanded, though, eventually to include a diet that excluded animal-derived foods such as eggs, meat, fish, poultry, cheese, and other dairy products. All right? So instead of that, a vegan diet includes plant foods like fruits, vegetables, green nuts, seeds, and legumes. All right? This veganism is a movement, and this movement has evolved as well to focus on ethics and animal welfare, environmental and health concerns as well. It originated again as a focus on ethics and animal welfare, but has evolved to include environmental and health concerns. All right. And veganism focuses on negative effects of modern animal agriculture on the planet, as well as the potential negative health effects of eating a diet high in processed meat and choosing saturated over unsaturated fats. All right. And again, when I was 14, that was my focus. But again, the definition of being vegan then, for me, I'm not saying that this definition didn't exist then, but what I was privy to then was really being vegan meant not consuming animal products as a source of food or sustenance, right? But at that point, I never gave up the wearing of leather and the use of leather for clothing and shoes and things of that nature. So that was something that, I just lived with. I always identified as vegan, even though I would always say to people, yeah, I identify as vegan, but I still wear leather, I still use leather, and I see the need for it and the use for it, and I understand that. But of course, many people considered me a walking, just absolutely contrary to the decisions that I made. Right, some of the way that I lived, or the things that I decided to do or use, were in contrary to some of the other decisions that I made in my life. And that's one example. All right. So I also think it's important to think about how thoughtful being a vegan makes you. It puts you in a place where you have to embrace mindfulness, because now you're no longer considering what you need to consume to survive, right? You begin to think about all of the other life forms around you and their survival, right? You start to think about how you can work in consort with everything else around you, other organisms, whether you are in harmony with them. And though we're not responsible for the way animals are treated, when we think about agriculture and the large dairy industry, we may not be dairy farmers. I'm not a dairy farmer, but we do have an influence, right? And part of that influence is affected based on the choices we make. The choices we make and the decisions we make when it comes to identifying what brand of dairy we're going to consume, if we're going to be consumers of dairy. And if we're not, and we're choosing the path of a vegan, we also still have to be very conscious of the other choices that we make, because some of those choices we think they're beneficial to our bodies, but they're not, right? And this is where we're gonna start talking about alternative meats and lab grown meats, because people may love the idea of them, and they may love the fact that it tastes very good and they taste like, and I don't know because I have not tried them and I will not be trying them. So if somebody wants to try them and tell me, then that's up to you, which people have. But it's really important for us to consider all of the other choices that we're making, because there are choices that we do make in the name of veganism that actually ends up hurting the planet. All right, it's counterintuitive, and so it's really important to consider everything, right, that we're talking about here. The other phrase, or the other term that I wanted us to explore, was the term plant-based. All right, so plant-based is all about health. So when, just as with veganism or the word vegan, I said attach the word ethics to veganism or to the word vegan. So here with plant-based, I want you to attach the word health. All right, and so that the plant-based is a more modern term compared to the 1944 term of veganism. All right, in the 1980s, Dr. T. Colin Campbell introduced the term plant-based diet, and he introduced the term as a low-fat, high-fiber, vegetable-based diet that would focus on health, not ethics, health. And so being plant-based is a good decision to make, because it helps us to embrace both, right? We're able to embrace the understanding that animals need human advocates to support them, to make sure that, those who are heading up the dairy industry and the farms and agriculture, that they're actually treating the animals whose lives they're going to take, they're actually treating them with respect, right? And, not just throwing them all into, one little 4x4 square space and not feeding them properly, not, giving them an overabundance of hormonal injections, not being respectful of, just how they're kept, not because they're going to be slaughtered or used as food for human consumption doesn't mean that they'll be, allowed to live in filth, or you'll cram 100 into one small room and, you won't give them space to breathe. Things like that does not make sense to me. So again, we are still responsible. We're still responsible for that advocacy piece. We're still responsible for the ethics piece. However, our focus should also be health, right? If I'm choosing a plant-based diet, I'm choosing a plant-based diet not just because of the ethics of an animal and its supposed rights, right? I'm not saying that they don't have rights, but I'm also considering my own health. That's critical, right? That's critical. Do I understand the value of reducing the amount of meat consumption and red meat consumption, and how that begins to change just the way my body functions, the way my immune system is able to develop over time? Do I understand that consuming far lower amounts of saturated fat actually improves heart health for me and for the children that I give birth to? these are important things to consider. And I say that because with the advent of the term plant-based, we get to begin to really consider our health, the health of our bodies, and look at what we're consuming. Look at the nutritional content of the food that we're consuming. Really scrutinize the relationship between what we consume, right? On this level of conversation, we're only talking about food consumption. But there's so much more that we could talk about when it comes to consuming and consumption, right? Because I can consume programs, television programs. I can consume music. My body is taking in, my subconscious mind is processing whatever it is that is in my vicinity or in my environment, whether it's digitally, virtually, audibly, based on frequency. All of those things feed us. They feed our spirit, they feed our body, and they feed our soul. All right, though the soul is not affected by any earthly experience, all right, so that's something that's important. But I think with the advent of plant-based, the phrase plant-based, it started to pull us into a place where we began to consider the body and consider respecting the body. All right, and it's really important to respect animals and respect their experience, their emotional beings as well. They're organisms that have life as well. So it's really important to respect that. We cannot ignore our own bodies though. We cannot continue to consume and consume and consume without one iota of thought about what happens to the arteries. Why do they become overclogged? Why does our system begin to break down? Why do our nerves begin to fall apart at a certain age? Why are women going through bouts of barrenness? Why is that happening? Why are young girls going through extremely painful periods? Right? Why are the periods of menarche so very close to preteen age? Before it was a little bit further off. You know, parents would say, okay, we have another year or two. That's not the case now. Why are our young women, our young men, why are they so overweight? Why are they dealing with obesity at such young ages, at such young stages in their journey? Those are all crucial questions. And I think those questions became, they surfaced and they became a part of the conversation with the dawn of the idea behind plant-based diet. Because before, we weren't thinking about that. Before, we were so caught up in the ethics of it all and so on. And yeah, we eventually attached health benefits, but that was just like, by the way, now we really get to scrutinize and look at the relationship between food and our health. All right. And so, exploring these two, I want to charge you all, those of you who've listened to me, I guess you could say, rave about one or the other this evening. I identify as having a plant-based diet. But what do you think? What is your stance on vegan versus plant-based diets? How do you identify? Do you identify as vegan? And if you do, why? Do you identify as a plant-based person? And if you do, why? All right, share those. And if you have any questions for me based on the stories that I shared or some of the information that I shared this evening, please feel free, reach out to us in the comment section. Jump on the YouTube channel every other Thursday evening. We are delving into live vlogs, so to speak. So you can always ask a question underneath any of the videos that you find on the Sovereignties YouTube channel. You can also tune into a new episode every week that's published on Spotify or iTunes and any one of the streaming platforms that are available to us, and maybe your favorite. I know Spotify is my personal favorite, so I'm always on there. Give us a rating, give us a rating and share our content. If you like what you're hearing, share our content on TikTok and, make sure to put our label on it so that way nobody's confused as to where the information is coming from. We really appreciate your listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Tune in to our next episode. We will probably dive into some more definitions and begin to set the stage and set the foundation for deeper conversations and deeper talks. If you want to share some of your ideas on what we should be giving the scoop on or what we should be spilling the tea on, please, again, jump on into the chat and share that with us. It is always a beautiful experience sharing with you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My name is Sister Moria, and I am an Anu woman. I am an health and wellness advocate. I love to engage and have these conversations with other women who are covered women, who are focused on, supporting their homestead and making everyone in the homestead shine, the children, the man, making sure that they're all healthy and wealthy and functioning at their optimum. And this is the space, right? My mission is to continue to create a community space where you can get all this information and you can apply it, or if you have questions about some of the experiences that you're having and you're not sure where to go or how to go about finding that information, that's why we're here. We are a resource for women who are managing homesteads and have children and are the helpmeets, the receptive and submissive helpmeets. And we're just going to continue to dive in and dig into season 2. See you all on our next episode. Peace.